Back to order. Ms. Kwan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. At this juncture, I would like to move the following motion, that the committee requests Global Affairs (GAC) to provide the unredacted findings of the internal investigation regarding the issuance of, quote, inauthentic, end quote, facilitation letters to third parties to the law clerk and parliamentary counsel for redaction according to his discretion before being sent to the committee, and further that GAC provide to the committee the unredacted name and title of the officials within GAC that provided the, quote, inauthentic, end quote, facilitation letter to George Young, acknowledged receipt of Senator McFadden's email acknowledged receipt of Senator McFadden's email and who shared the names of the vulnerable Afghans with Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada, bracket IRCC, and bracket no later than 30 days following the adoption of the motion. Mr. Chair, I'm moving this motion today because we heard on August 25th, 2021, from Senator McFadden, and in her testimony, she said that the facilitation template in question was sent to me by George Young. That's a quote from her in her testimony. She then went on further to say, quote, Mr. Young received this facilitation template from Global Affairs Canada, and he told me this in writing. She then further stated that names for the rolling list were sent frequently to George Young and Mr. Oz Janik, a senior policy advisor to the Minister of Global Affairs. Janik confirmed receipt of the names to me on August 24th with assurance that they would do everything they could to try and help get these people out. That's also a direct quote. Then she ran on to say, again a quote, Mr. Young stated that he had put these names into the system. And into the system is a subquote from George Young. Senator McFadden went on to say, when George Young sent me the facilitation templates on August 25th, he wrote with the first one, and I quote, I've received this from a colleague at GAC, try it, George, end quote. So what we need to get to, Mr. Chair, is who from GAC provided that authentic facilitation letter to George Young. And so to that end, I am moving this motion so that we can get that information, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Kwan. I believe the motion is in order. I have a speaking list, Ms. Kayabaga and then Ms. Sahib. Ms. Kayabaga, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to wait to sort of hear Mrs. Kwan's comments before I asked for a point of order. Maybe through you, Mr. Chair, if I could ask the clerk to tell us what is the procedure after a member puts forward the same motion that they've put forward before, and if this is an acceptable motion or not.
So, Madam Kayabaga, just two things to consider. This is a new motion as far as we're concerned, and
Can we perhaps then see the language of the motion through email in both languages? Maybe if we could suspend to see the language of the motion.
Okay, we can do that. We'll suspend for a moment.
Call the meeting back to order. I want to thank Mr. Redikoff for chairing the first portion of the meeting, and I also would love to welcome Madam Bayoub to the committee, and also Mr. Jaberi and Mr. Yakiano. Angelo, welcome. And motion is on the floor, and I have a speaking list. Madam Kaibaga, then Madam Jahid, Mr. Kamich, and Mr. Mugoyer. Madam Kaibaga, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Welcome back. I wasn't on this. I think I already spoke, and my question was to request if this was a similar motion to a previous motion moved by the member, and I have received the copy
Kaibaga?
as we requested to receive
Madam
the
Kaibaga?
copy. Yep.
Excuse me. We are in public. We cannot say anything directly or indirectly that might affect our proceedings that were in camera. So please make sure when you speak,
Mr. Speaker, I will remove myself off of the speaking list for now. I'll put up my hand if I have other questions.
Thank you kindly. Now I will go to Madam Jahid. Madam Jahid, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chair. And in regards to this motion, which has been just brought by Ms. Kwan, just a little clarification I need, and maybe the clerk can add to that, because this email which was sent by the clerk to all the members of the committee, it was like mentioned in that usually what to be redacted, like the information to be redacted about like someone special, like personal information, is normally like specified in the motion when we request the production of documents. So this is, I'm talking in regards to the email which was sent by the clerk on April 17th to the members of the committee. So I think it is important to like make sure that we have some sort of criteria laid down if we are requesting the documents to be redacted, to let the law clerk know about the parameters or what type of information should be redacted. So maybe the clerk can specify a little bit in regards to a little clarification what he meant in regards to the email which you sent on April 17th to the members.
Yeah, I'll give the floor to Mr. Clerk. Remy, you want to?
Can you suspend?
Sure, I'll suspend the meeting on the request of Mr. Clerk. Suspended. Back to order. Madam Jahid, the comments that you made, I have had extensive discussion with the clerk, and information that was distributed to the honorable member, to all the members, was in confidence. And I personally see that it is not the place now for Mr. Clerk to comment. So I give you the floor to continue, and if you still persist that clerk should speak, and he's willing to speak.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for the clarification. Just based on the rules, without giving, I'm just talking about the procedure. I'm not talking about the content of the motion or anything. I just want to bring it to your attention that it's mentioned, the rules say that the motion is not a substantive motion or a subsidiary motion where such a motion is already being debated.
Madam?
No, I'm not talking about the content of the motion. I'm just talking about the procedure that,
This motion.
Based on what I'm not saying anything on the content of the motion from the in-camera meeting, but I'm saying that a motion where already it has been debated or anything, a motion cannot be brought. So
basically, you're telling me that this is not a
yes.
substantive motion, right?
Yes. Basically what I'm saying is that the committee has already been debating a motion of similar substance. So this motion is out of order.
This is, Madam Jahid, this is, as far as I know, as far as I see, that this motion is not debated. This is a new motion, and I don't recall anywhere that this motion was debated earlier. Are the members feel the same way?
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Point of order, Madam Kaibaga.
Thank you, Chair. I disagree with you. I do believe that the rules of committee procedures are that if a motion is being discussed or being debated elsewhere, a committee is only required to deal with such one motion at a time. So therefore, this motion is not a substantive motion, and we cannot discuss this motion as it is being debated elsewhere. Whether we are allowed to discuss where it's being debated or not. So I would like to challenge your point on that, because this is a motion that's being debated elsewhere, and as our committee procedures clearly outline, we cannot be discussing this motion.
On the same point of order, Mr. Comich.
So yeah, I disagree with their interpretation. The previous chair occupant made a ruling and considered it that this was a substantive new motion, and then we started debating it. That we've had a debate now. You can't 3 persons into debate try and deem a motion no longer acceptable after it's been received by the chair and accepted. You've returned chair and you're occupying it now. There was a ruling made already, so you can't do this after the fact. It's not a point of order. It's not a valid point of order to raise a matter after debate that's already commenced on the motion.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Kaibaga. Again, on the point of order.
Thank you. I tried to raise a point of order earlier from the vice chair of the committee, who overruled to accept the motion, and I continue to challenge the same motion, that this is a motion that is being debated elsewhere. And if I can quote the committee proceedings, House of Commons Practice, 3rd edition, 2017 procedural info from the House of Commons of Canada, it says, in the section of moving motions, a member of committee may move a motion at any time in the normal course of meetings. 596 provided that point, the notice period, if any, has been respected. second point, the motion is not substantive motion or subsidiary motion where such a motion is already being debated, and it opens a bracket. A committee is required to deal with such motion one at a time. And I'm going to finish the other points too, just to make sure that I'm reading this entire section. The member has the floor to move the motion and is not doing so on a point of order, and moving the motion does not violate any rule the committee may have adopted in respect to the period in which motions can be moved. So, Mr. Chair, you were not here. It was being presided by the Vice Chair. I requested for a similar comment that this motion was being debated elsewhere, and the Vice Chair unrulingly accepted this motion without actually following through the procedure. This is committee proceedings. It's in our manual, the Procedural Information Manual of the House of Commons of Canada, and it clearly states that a motion that is being debated elsewhere cannot be a substantive motion. I try to say this earlier, and unfortunately, Mr. Chair, the ruling of the Vice Chair was false, and therefore I will continue to contest that this motion is not a substantive motion, that we cannot debate it right now. I think that the mover of the motion would be better served if they resume debate rather than move this motion right now.
Thank you, Madam Kaibaga. Madam Kaibaga, you have every right to challenge the chair. My position is that the chair at the time, officiating chair, has taken the decision, and I follow his decision, and I'm chairing the meeting right now. And if you are not happy with the chair's decision, you are welcome to challenge me. Challenge
Mr. Chair. Unfortunately, the previous occupants who was in the chair, which was the Vice Chair, their ruling was not procedurally sound. So therefore, you cannot go off of a non-procedurally sound ruling to move forward with the committee. And I would like more information. Perhaps the clerk can provide us more information, and we'd have to suspend until we find that information, Mr. Chair. I don't see how we can move forward with a non-procedurally sound proceeding happening in the committee right now.
So you want to challenge the chair, or you want the clerk to speak on this?
I would, if we could just take a moment, sir, the chair, so I can inform myself on what needs to be done. But I do think that's I'd like some time to make that decision. But we can't move forward right now.
So there's only two things, Madam Kaibaga. Either you can ask right now, because the ask is the clerk to intervene, right?
Yes, I'm requesting that the clerk intervenes because there was a non-procedurally sound procedure that happened, and before I challenge, your decision or your ruling, Mr. Chair, I'd like to hear how I'd like to chat with the clerk
if you
on
challenge
that.
my ruling, again, this is a non-debatable, and I have to take a vote on challenging. If you're challenging the chair, again, I want you to make clear. If you want the clerk to say something, he will. And make sure those two questions are very separate. One is going to the clerk to give you the direction, to give the direction to the committee. The second one is challenging the chair. So you want clerk
Sorry, go
to...
ahead.
You can mix those two, right? One is I want you to be very clear in your deliberations that, let me say, you want clerk to, you want me to give the floor to the clerk to answer your question on whether this motion is a substantive motion in order.
Well, that, but also the fact that there was a non-procedural sound decision that was made by the Vice Chair. And Mr. Chair, on principle, if we're going to follow the rules of the committee, this was not procedurally sound, and I would like to challenge that.
Q, the chair is challenged. I will call the clerk to take a vote on that, please. Can you read that the
Yes.
chair is challenged?
So the motion is the chair's ruling be sustained. So Mr. Just a second. Iacono?
Nope.
Mr. Chang?
No.
Mr. Zubiri?
No.
Madame Kayabaga?
No.
Ms. Zaid?
No.
Mr. Kimmich?
Yes.
Mr. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. McLean?
Oui.
Mr. Ridicop?
Yes.
Madame Bérubé? Ms. Kwan?
Yes.
Yeas 6, nays 5.
The chair's ruling is sustained, and the floor is with Madam Zahid. Then I have Mr. Kimmich, and then Madam Kaibaga and Madam Kwan on the list.
So
have
can you
done
please
your term?
clarify? No, can you please clarify like where we are now?
We are debating the motion. We are
Okay.
we are
We are debating the motion by Ms.
by Madam Kwan.
And thank you, Chair. So I would like to say that in regards to this motion which has been brought by Ms. Kwan, I think it is really very important that we provide some specification so that there is clarity.
What time are your treatments at?
Mr. Go ahead.
Angela, please mute yourself.
Yeah. So I think it is really very important that we specify in that like what redactions should be made and how it should be because of the Privacy Act. Like we should not be mentioning many things which are under cabinet confidentiality. So I think as committee we need to provide clarity on what specific information. How that information should be redacted. Some thing has to be specified in that. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you done? Okay, Mr. Kimmich.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I support Madam Kwan's motion to have this document provided to us. At different points in the committee's testimony received in public, different departments have told us they did review or conduct internal investigations or inquiries of some sort. And this specific motion would basically have them produce one of those to be given to this committee. And the law clerk's office will be the ones to determine the redactions. I don't agree with Ms. Zahid's contentions that we need to give more directions. It's at his discretion. It's at the discretion of the office. It's been done many times in other parliamentary committees. I'll point out, too, that in July 2022, it was the Liberal government that appointed Philippe Dufresne to become the Privacy Commissioner of Canada, who was the previous law clerk of the House of Commons. So obviously, I trust the public servants. I don't know why she wouldn't trust them, why they wouldn't trust them to do the work correctly. The Access to Information Act doesn't apply here. We want the unredacted documents. And I'll also point out that when Senator McPhaedron came before committee and they provided documents, those were provided to us unredacted with full emails and full names as well. So I think in a moment of transparency, we'd want the government to provide that document in full, unredacted, to the law clerk, and the law clerk's office can then determine which parts of it should not be given over to committee to form part of our public testimony that's available to the public. And I don't know why they're trying to hide this document even more. Let's just proceed to a vote and get this over with, get this document into the public sphere.
Thank you. And Madam Kaibaga, you have anything to say because your hand was up, okay? Madam Kwan.
I'll just make a very brief comment, and I hope that we can get to a vote on this. I trust the law clerk in their work, and they will make that assessment accordingly. I just want to make it very clear as to why this motion is so important to our study. It is because Senator McPhaedron indicated that she got the inauthentic facilitation letter from George Young. George Young is no longer with government. And in that exchange, she also indicated that, to which an email was provided to the clerk as part of the submission of information from the senator, that George Young indicated that he had received this inauthenticated letter from someone in GAC. We don't know who that individual is. I think it is important for us to find out. Part of the study was to try to get to the bottom of this issue. And so if we don't try and ask for the information, we will never know, and we can't get to the bottom of it. And so this is why I think it's absolutely essential. And so to that end, in terms of the rules that would apply with respect to documentation, the independent of office of the law clerk, I believe, will be able to do this work in such a way that respects the rules of the House and that will respect all the requirements accordingly. The law clerk is an experienced office, of course, and they've done this work as indicated at other committees as well. And so we should leave it to them to undertake this work. So I hope that the committee can move forward with this motion, and let's vote on it.
Thank you. We cannot go to the vote yet because the speaking list has not exhausted yet. So, Madam Jahid.
Thank you, Chair. And through you, I would like to ask a question before we vote on this motion from the clerk of the committee based on some previous history. When the committees have, not just this committee or any other committee has requested the law clerk, has based on some examples previously, have some parameters, like whenever the information was requested, where there were some parameters which were defined, or it was left to the discretion of the law clerk to redact the information. If you have some examples, and if you can share it with us, that usually, are there any parameters which are specified in requesting the production of documents for personal information, or usually it has been at the discretion of the law clerk?
Thank you, Madam Jahid. I'll go to Mr. Clerk. Mr. Clerk, floor is with you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, there is precedence of the law clerk doing this kind of work. However, at the moment, based on the way the motion is written, the law clerk will probably have to be back to the committee in order to get some parameters before doing the redaction itself. Because right now, the moment this is clear that the law clerk will probably get back to the committee on that. And one point also that I would like to raise, if I may, Mr. Chair, the motion doesn't state that the government should provide the document in both official languages, which could be quite important in order for the law clerk to redact, but getting all the documents already bilingual from the department itself. So the law clerk already did that in the past, but usually there is some kind of criteria that is given to him. But right now, the committee, it's possible that the law clerk will get back to the committee saying, okay, now I received documents, how exactly you want me to redact them?
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Back to Madam Jahid.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have no more persons on the speaking list, so I will take it to Mr. Radikov.
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to say a couple things on this. This is a really important issue, and of course, this goes back to the war that happened when the Taliban took over Afghanistan. When all that was going on, that here in Ottawa, there was some Liberal political staff and Trudeau-appointed senators that conspired to bypass normal procedures by providing these forged papers to certain friends to circumvent the proper process in Afghanistan for those trying to get it out. So this parliamentary committee got hold of certain documents, including emails, that exposed this conspiracy and held hearings back in 2022, actually, in 2023. But we were constantly blocked by the Liberals from calling key witnesses, such as Chief of Staff to the Defense Minister, George Young, who allegedly ran this conspiracy. We also learned in our hearings that the Immigration Department, Global Affairs, and Canadian Forces all launched their own internal investigations into these activities. So this motion is just for us as parliamentarians to get the most up-to-date information from Global Affairs Canada on their investigation. And we'll see if the Liberals are going to be transparent and allow this to happen. But
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Point of order, Madam Kaibaga.
Thank you. I didn't want to cut through my colleague's comments, but he's talking about a conspiracy, and I just think that that's out of order. What happened in Afghanistan was not a conspiracy, and his comments are out of order, basically, around the conspiracy comments.
Thank you, Madam Kaibaga. Mr. Radikov, floor is with you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When we tried to bring George Young to this committee to answer questions on the subject, every time I moved the motion, the Liberals blocked it. So conspiracy, I don't know if that's the right word, maybe cover up, sure, we could use cover up. Will the Liberals finally support the efforts of us opposition parties to get to the bottom of this? Or is there something that's being hidden here? We need to know the answer to this question. Because we have documented proof of a Trudeau-appointed senator, Liberal ministerial political staff, and sitting Liberal ministers who participated in this. If there's nothing to hide, then we should just be able to get these documents, unless there's somebody that's needed to be protected. And it certainly can't be political staff, because I think they throw them under the bus often. It can't be a senator, or because they're already implicated in this. So who's left? Maybe the Prime Minister, I don't know. But let's find out. Let's get this information. Let's get it. And the law clerk is wise enough to redact as he needs to. And so I'm just excited to get this motion passed, and hopefully the Liberals will support it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I'm excited. Mr. Comich is back. I'm going to call the vote now. So, Mr. Clerk, take the vote.
So the vote is on the motion proposed by Ms. Kwan. Monsieur Iacono? Monsieur Iacono?
En faveur.
Mr. Chang?
In favor.
Mr. Zubiri?
Oui.
Madame Kayabaga?
Cool.
Ms. Zaid?
Yes.
Mr. Kimmich?
Yes.
Mr. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Mr. Ridicop?
Yes.
Madame Bélubé?
Oui.
Ms. Kwan?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Motion is Mr. Comich.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm glad we could get through that portion of our agenda and pass that important motion. I have another motion that I've put on notice that I would like to move at this time. That a committee acknowledged has received correspondence from the President of Canada Hong Kong Link, Andy Wong, that it expresses its deep concern at the unreasonable delays being imposed on Hong Kong pathway applicants of up to 21 months, that over 8,000 applicants are still waiting to be processed, that Hong Kongers in Canada are freedom-loving people, and keeping them in limbo is wrong, that the committee call on Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada to immediately begin processing renewals and extensions of open work permits and study permits, and that this matter be reported to the House. So here is the urgency of the matter, Chair. So we've all received a letter from Canada-Hong Kong Link, and in it, it kind of explains the situation facing many of the applicants and respondents. Many of them are losing status, and it's also affecting their children, because when the parent loses status, the children oftentimes can't continue to go to school legally, and so they're being removed from those schools. And the situation in Hong Kong is not getting better. Trials against Jimmy Lai and other members who worked for Apple Daily and student protesters from the pro-democracy movement there have all been targeted. Some of them are being released, but they're being released with criminal penalties. So on their records, they're showing that they were criminally charged and convicted. Sometimes the Hong Kong constabulary is upgrading the charges when they're being released to something much more serious. And they're having a greater difficulty coming to Canada. And then once they're in Canada, once they have a visa to stay here, when they apply for permanent residency or for an extension, they're facing unreasonable delays, despite the fact that they were promised publicly and repeatedly by the Liberal government and by the minister that their matters would be heard in a timely fashion and it would be expedited. So I have, so far I can count, 8,357 applications are still in processing. That's according to the Toronto Star report of March 15th, 2024. I have spoken directly to persons working inside IRCC on whether, in fact, there is still priority processing for Hong Kongers. And there is a lack of clarity. I've heard both that there isn't and that there is, both from my case file manager and from members of the Hong Kong community in Canada, whether they're in Toronto, Vancouver, or elsewhere, who are saying, in fact, they're being told the opposite, that they're not getting priority processing. And that's causing a lot of anxiety in the community, and people are very worried about their futures in Canada. And they're also worried about whether Canada is still a welcoming place for pro-democracy activists. We all saw what the Hogue inquiry found last week on Friday, that in fact there was interference in our election. It wasn't successful, but the PRC is participating, and they're also targeting members of the Hong Kong community. And I'll say, like, as one of 18 parliamentarians, I was targeted by the PRC for that APT-31 reconnaissance pixel email attack. That's been already raised with the Speaker of the House of Commons. But if the government can't protect parliamentarians, or won't protect parliamentarians, as we discovered with my colleague Michael Chong and his family being targeted by the PRC, many Hong Kongers see that, and they're extra worried, because if the government won't protect parliamentarians, they hold no hope that the government will do right by them. And there are many groups now advocating for that priority processing for Hong Kongers to be done. I have a petition in the House of Commons as well that is asking for that acceleration of the approvals to ensure that processing is done in a timely fashion and ensure that Hong Kong citizens' applications won't be rejected due to target restrictions. And I'll just read off some of the points that they're making. It says, permanent residence pathways for Hong Kong residents take effect on June 1st, 2021. They expire on August 31st, 2026. They mentioned that over 8,000 Hong Kong residents who are awaiting PR processing, they have it as of April 2024. Some of these applications have been waiting for over a year, despite being designated, like I said, for priority processing. In December 2023 and February 2024, only 30 of 48 cases were approved for permanent residency. That's from over 8,000. That is a huge discrepancy. If it's a priority to give people a yes or a no, and I'm not saying everybody will get a yes, but the department should at least be giving people an opportunity to plan their lives out and plan for their own future. It's difficult to plan when you're not being given an answer. The Hong Kong pathways lack measures to extend OWP, leaving some individuals with expired visas without access to health, insurance, jobs, and education, which, like I said, it's affecting children. And in the case that I have been tracking, there's well over 50 that I found so far in different applications where children have been affected. And again, the target number for PR based on humanitarian compassionate grounds is being reduced by the government. It's being reduced. That's according to the government's own November tabled immigration targets plan. It's going to be reduced to 13,750 in 2024, and by 2025 it'll be 8,000. And this reduction raises significant questions about whether Hong Kong citizens and residents will still be accommodated within the stream. So if the government plans to reduce the total HNC down to 8,000, and I've just mentioned that there are 8,357 applications, which means that's an application, they have dependents attached to it, and they're all supposed to receive an answer, hopefully, within a reasonable amount of time, then what is the government indicating to them? Because there's lots of other agency applications going on, and they can't all be reserved for Hong Kong residents. So the government is saying, on one hand, that it does care for these Hong Kongers who are fleeing an oppressive regime, a communist regime that through the basic law and further legislation that's passing at a local level is further constraining the freedoms of Hong Kongers and pushing more people to leave the country and flee, like Eastern Europeans did in the 70s and 80s, like my family did in the early 1980s when my father came here in 1983 and then could not return to communist Poland. That's the same situation facing Hong Kongers today. And now we have a stream that is shrinking in size to be now below the total number of applications that only Hong Kongers have put in. There's lots of other humanitarian compassionate ground applications that are being made. So I want clarity from the government exactly what it's going to do, but I want this reported to the House so we can have a fulsome debate there, and so the House is made aware of what is going on, because all of these numbers are publicly available, and this motion puts them all together as a presentation piece so that we can clearly see that this particular community has a great deal of anxiety about their future in Canada and how many will be allowed to stay as permanent residents and make a contribution to Canada. they love democracy, human rights, free speech. They want to participate in the democratic process. These are hopefully future Canadians who will completely integrate our system. We have a long history of Hong Kongers moving to Canada and becoming parliamentarians even, and making a contribution to Canada. I have a lot of friends from there. And I just find it appalling that the government will leave these people hanging, typically until the last minute. And if I can make a comparison to what's been done to Ukrainian CAWID visa holders, when the program was to be shut down or extended, the government waited till the 11th hour to announce what it was going to do. And now you have as well Ukrainian CAWID visa holders, which are feeling the same rising level of anxiety that Hong Kongers have who are in Canada. And I feel like this is the bellwether for how the government's going to treat other diaspora communities who are fleeing to Canada because of an oppressive regime overseas. So we have to do more. I want this reported to the House so we can have a fulsome debate. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Kimich. I have the speaking list: Mr. Chang, Mr. Redikop, Madam Jaid, Madam Kwan, and Mr. McLean. So floor is with Mr. Chang. Mr. Chang, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back, Mr. Chair, from your motion, private members bill. And I want to thank the members across for the two motions that we are discussing this morning in committee, and I'm sure we can get some work done today and get these things done, and so that we can move on with other pressing matter this committee has to work on. So, Mr. Kimich's motion, I would like to, we should have an amendment through it, the following thing I would like to amend on it, where you wrote after open work permit and study permit, delete and I would like to add, and pursuant to Standing Order 109, that the government provide a comprehensive response, and I'd like to add that to the end of the motion.
Mr.
And this way, Mr. Kimich can get an answer from the government on this important issue. To me, Hong Kongers are also an important issue for me also. So I do have lots of Hong Konger friends, and I have one friend right across from me too. So,
Thank you. Mr. Chang has brought the amendment. Mr. Kimich, you accept that friendly amendment or what?
Well, I'd like to hear debate from others.
Debate, others?
Yeah.
Okay. So now I will give the floor to Mr. Redikop.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and you can keep my name on the list for after this is done. I think it's important that we do this motion. I think there's other pathways to get responses from the government, including talking about it in the House, and so I don't like the idea of adding this to this motion, as it takes away that ability from us. So I think that I would not agree with this amendment to the motion, but I do support the motion, which I can talk about after.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak on the amendment made by Mr. Chang? Madam Kwan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'd like to actually move a sub-amendment to the amendment. And in fact, on this issue, what I think needs to be done is, of course, for the government to immediately resume priority processing for Hong Kongers. When the immigration measure was first introduced, the processing took 6 months approximately. That's the average time to which people were able to get their PR application. Now it's being extended to 21 months. In the meantime, what's happening is that people's study permit and work permit are expiring. Some of them, a few people I've talked to, is already expired. Others is about to expire, so time is of the essence. But we know that immigration processing is often actually much delayed. And what I would then like to do is to sub-amend this amendment by, with the following. In the line where it says, to immediately begin processing renewals and extensions of open work permits and study permits. I'd like to change that to immediately automatically renew open work permits and study permits for Hong Kongers as they wait for their PR application, permanent residence application, to be processed, and then following the rest. I think that is absolutely essential, because the fear here for a lot of the folks is that as they wait, and even if the government say that they will resume priority processing, actually the government officials, from what I understand from one community group, have indicated to them that they have actually never stopped priority processing, but nonetheless it's taking 21 months for these applications to be processed. In the meantime, people's status are expiring. So we need to make sure that they don't lose their status. We look into what's going on with the priority processing and to resume that work, and so that people don't end up being sent back to Hong Kong. What's happening right now in Hong Kong is that Article 29 has passed in Hong Kong, where the Hong Kong government is escalating the arbitrary detentions and arrests of Hong Kongers. Can you imagine if people are sent back, what they will face? And I fear that for them and their family members. I am a Hong Konger. I was born in Hong Kong, and is a place that is my birthplace. And the people there are subject to this turn of events where the national security law has been brought in, and basic law for Hong Kongers has all been dismantled. And as well, frankly, the promise that was made not just to Hong Kongers, but to the international community has been breached when the handover took place. So I think it is incumbent on us to do this work. The government says that they stand with Hong Kongers, so let's do it not just by words, but in action. And what it needs to be done at this point in time is to ensure that priority processing is resumed, and in the interim, that the Canadian government automatically renew their work permit and study permit.
Thank you, Madam Kwan. Before I go to the debate on the motion sub-amended, Mr. Clerk has comments to make. If you can provide us exactly where this should be inserted. So, Mr. Clerk, that's all you want?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, I will repeat the language. So then, after the words Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada, bracket IRCC, to immediately, we strike out the word begin, then we add in the word automatically, then we strike out the word processing, then the word renewals become renew, and we strike out and extensions of. Then it goes on open work permits and study permits. Then after that, we add in for Hong Kongers as they wait for their permanent residence applications to be processed. So, and so that last piece is just to make it clear that it applies to the Hong Kongers. It's not forever in terms of renewing their study permit or work permit. It's just until their PR application is processed, so that they don't end up losing status as they wait, and then being caught in a bad situation of having no status while they wait, and therefore in violation of IRCC regulations, or be sent back to Hong Kong to face consequences that I certainly don't want to think about.
Thank you, Madam Kwan. So we are debating on the motion brought forward by Mr. Kimmich, amended by Mr. Chang, and sub-amended by Madam Kwan. And Mr. Chang, you are on the speaking list. Anyone else on this sub-amendment? Please raise your hands. Go ahead, Mr. Chang.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Madam Kwan, for bringing your sub-amendment. And like you say, you were born in Hong Kong. I myself was not born in Hong Kong, but I do have lots of family in Hong Kong, and Hong Kong holds a special place in my heart too. And being of Chinese heritage, I learned Cantonese because of my heritage, and I wanted to make sure that I stay connected to my heritage. And I mean, we are good to support you on your amendment to Mr. Kamich's motion, or on your motion. My apologies, sub amendment, and we're always here to work together. This committee is here to work together to make sure that we get the work done and we can move forward, and not to dwell too much on certain things. But I would love to work and get this thing done, and hopefully one day, we can all go back to Hong Kong for a visit.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Mr.
Mr. Chair.
Chang. As there's no more hands up, I'll take the vote. All in favor of the motion as sub-amended by Madam Kwan? Anyone opposed? Amendment carried. So now we are back to the debate on the motion as amended. And I have the speaking list.
Chair.
Point of order.
So we have just voted on, not voted, but consent is on sub-amendment, or it's both sub-amendment and the amendment which was proposed by Ms.
Sub-amendment proposed by Madam Kwan.
So then we are back on the amendment proposed by Mr. Chang.
That is what it is, and I have the speaking list: Mr. Chang, the Radikov, Majahid, Kawan, Madam Kwan, and Mr. McLean. So, Mr. Chang.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And my proposed some amendment to Mr. Kamich's amendment, with my some amendment, we can get much more answers from the government on, I believe, on this important issue that we are debating here. And it is something that, I want to see it, that we get done. And my friendly amendment just makes it more clarifies it more, and so that we can get a comprehensive response for this committee, so that we can do the important work that we're doing here. And I'm hoping that we can agree on my some amendment so that we can move on and get this thing done. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. That's the speaker list I have. Is it those members still want to speak on the motion amendment brought by Mr. Chang, or no? Okay, main motion. Okay, so Madam Kwan, please go ahead.
Sorry, can I just hear the whole sub-amended amendment of the motion, please?
Mr. Clerk, could you please, you need a few seconds?
Well,
You're
Ms.
ready.
Kwan, I'll do my best, but because I didn't receive your text in written.
Why don't I suspend for a few seconds and let Madam Kwan come and give you that? I don't want
Mr.
any
Chair,
excuses.
Mr. Chair, before we suspend, are we doing the motion now with my friendly amendment on it too, or just Madam Kwan?
Everything together.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So I'll suspend the meeting for a few seconds. Mr. Clerk.
So the motion read as follows, and then I will say separately the amendment of Mr. Chang. That the committee acknowledge it has received correspondence from the President of Canada Hong Kong Link, Andy Wong, that it expresses its deep concern as the unreasonable delays being imposed on Hong Kong pathway applicants of up to 21 months, that over 8,000 applicants are still waiting to be processed, that Hong Kongers in Canada are freedom-loving people, and keeping them in limbo is wrong, that the committee calls on Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada to immediately automatically renew open work permits and study permits for Hong Kongers as they wait for their permanent resident application to be processed. Then the amendment by Mr. Chang, pursuant to Standing Order 109, that the government provided a comprehensive response and that this matter be reported to the House.
Thank you. So, debate on this. Any debate on this part? No. We are ready to vote. I will.
On the amendment of Mr. Chang.
Yes, for sure. We are voting on the amendment, Mr. Chang. We are voting on your amendment, right? Are you ready to vote?
Yes, I am, but after the vote, can I be able to speak after the vote?
You are on the floor. First one on the
Thank you.
main motion. Pardon? Okay. You okay with that amendment? Oh yeah. Okay. So all in favor? Anyone opposed? None. The motion as amended by the amendment by Mr. Chang to Mr. Kmitsch's motion is through. So now we are back to the motion brought forward by Mr. Kmitsch, amended by Mr. Chang, and sub-amended by Madam Kwan. Any debate on that? Debate? Okay. I thought there is a vote now. Okay, so I will give the floor to, because you were on the list of speakers, I can take you off, because I can go to Mr. Reddy-Kopp. Because
I want to be on a speaker list for after the vote.
okay, not so. Anyways, I'll go to Mr. because I have the speaking list in this order right now. Mr. Chang, Mr. Reddy-Kopp, Madam Jaid, Madam Kwan, Mr. McLean. So you are not speaking now. I give the floor to Mr. Reddy-Kopp.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for navigating that. I just wanted to just add my support to this. I met with members from Hong Kong who are suffering with these problems, and so I think this is really, really important. You know, the government said that there was going to be priority processing for these streams, Stream A and Stream B, for Hong Kongers in Canada. And as has been pointed out, these are freedom-loving people. These are people who can add to Canada's to what makes Canada what we are. And so these people are being unduly hurt, I would say, from the conversations I've had by their having their paperwork expire while waiting for the government to process their PRs. And I've talked to moms who can't put their kids in school now because their paperwork has expired, and technically they're in the country illegally now, and that's completely wrong and totally against the whole point of why these streams were created in the first place, to help these people escape the problems they were having in Hong Kong, and also they don't have any options. Like they can't leave Canada, they can't go back to Hong Kong, and so it's a real problem for them. It takes away their access to healthcare as well as education too. So this is really important, and as my colleague Mr. Kmitsch mentioned, that the modus operandi of this government seems to be to wait to the very last minute before actually renewing something or doing something about it. And we've seen this time and again on different programs. And so I don't want to see that here. I'd like to see some action, and so that's why I think this is really important. And so that's my thoughts on this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reddy-Kopp. I have Madam Jahid on the line, on the list. Madam Jahid, you want to say something?
Not on this motion.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Done. Madam Kwan, you want to say something?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'll just finish up with some closing comments with regard to this. I want to say thank you to all the committee members with their support of my sub-amendment, because I think that is absolutely essential that we restore people's status automatically. This has been done before, by the way, Mr. Chair. During the COVID period, there were many people who were falling out of status because of the situation. And I had proposed to the then minister that what the government should do is automatically renew people's work permit and study permits so that they don't fall out of status, because many people were. And as we know, when people fall out of status, they're illegally here, and that would have implications for any immigration streams to which they may want to apply for at a later time. And it leaves a black mark on their file forever. And so to preempt this, this is why I think that we should go forward with an automatic renewal. The other thing with an automatic renewal is this: aside from giving the protection for the people whose status would expire, it would also save IRCC resources. That means that they don't have to go and process renewal applications, and instead invest that time and that energy and that resource into processing permanent residence applications. So I really hope that the government will actually undertake to do this work in action and not just in words. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Kwan. And I have my dear friend McLean on the list. Please go ahead. Sorry, you had to wait long, but time is yours.
No, I thank you, and I won't be very long at all, Mr. Chair. And thank you to my colleagues for bringing this forward, to Mr. Chang as well, Tom Kamick, Brad Redekop for speaking about this, Jenny as well. Thank you very much. A very important issue, and I think it's important for people to recognize what this means to people that are living in Canada, that came from Hong Kong, that are waiting for their process, their immigration process, to be finalized or to be temporarily extended here. Open work permits, when they're not extended, cause people to not get jobs because some of the employers want to make sure that they're hiring somebody for a 2 or 3 year term, and they want to make sure that they're going to be there for the 2 to 3 year terms. And as my colleague Mr. Redekop also said, when you've got children in school, that school is provincial jurisdiction, is overseen by provincial authorities, and they also want to make sure that all the paperwork is there so that the children can attend school legitimately, and they have the paperwork to do so. And the other situation, of course, is the healthcare systems, and the healthcare systems in the provinces need to ensure that there's the right paperwork so that we provide healthcare services to people that are awaiting the paperwork requirements from immigration, from IRCC as well. So this has become a situation where too much is being held up, and we need to process these as we told people we would. And now all their representatives are coming here. We're parliamentarians. We represent this. It seems we're all speaking with one voice in this place. Can we please move forward here as quickly as possible and get something done for people that we've made promises to, we've made commitments to, and now we have to fulfill those commitments. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. McLean. It seems like the list is exhausted. No more on the speaker list. I'll tell the clerk to take a vote, please. Good? Are we all good? All in favor? Opposed? None. Motion brought forward by Mr. Kamic, amended by Mr. Chang, and Madam Kwan, subamended, is carried. Mr. Chang.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Now that the motion has been voted on, I think we have important work to do in regards to the Afghan letter. We have taken too much time on getting that letter completed. We only have a few paragraphs to go, and I wanted to see if we can finish the letter so that we can move on, so we can have the ministers and department officials coming in and speaking to us and answering questions for us. So I would like to not delay that anymore, and we should move on with getting the letter done at our next meeting, because today the time is running out and we're almost at the 1 o'clock mark, and I want to ask members across, colleagues here, what do they think about at this time, I don't think we have enough time to get any more business done today. And if they like, we can either suspend or adjourn the meeting for Wednesday.
You, so you can, to bring the motion, to adjourn the meeting, Mr. Chang, I'm sure you are well aware that you got to bring in the motion to adjourn. Only then I can call the Madam Chang. No, Mr. Chang and then Madam Kwan. Mr. Chang.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Then I bring a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Okay, non-debatable. All in favor?
Five more minutes? Do we need to adjourn?
Because we have to go in camera. If we have to go the Afghanistan letter, it will take about 15 minutes.
We've already agreed not to be in camera on it.
Not necessarily on the Afghanistan letter. I have to bring it forward again, and there will be a discussion on that one. So, Madam Kwan. Because this motion is a non-debatable.
It's a non-debatable motion, so we do have 5 more minutes. So let's vote on this. I have one other business that I'd like to advance, if I may, which hopefully will only just take like 3 minutes.
Okay, so motion to adjournment, and all in favor? Opposed? I'll take the vote because I'll tell the clerk to take a vote.
Monsieur Iacono, la motion est pour ajourner la réunion. Oui? OK.
Oui.
Mr. Chang?
Mr. Chair, I vote yes.
Mr. Zuberi?
Je vote pour l'ajoutement.
I'm voting for.
Ga?
Je vote pour.
Ms. Saïd?
I vote in favor.
Mr. Kimmich?
Nay.
Mr. McGuire?
Nay.
McLean?
Contre.
Mr. Ridicop?
No.
Madame Bérubé?
No.
Ms. Kwan?
No.
Nays. Nays 6, yeas 1.
Okay.
5, I'm sorry.
Madam, motion defeated. Madam Kwan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'll just quickly move this. Hopefully it's not controversial. I'm going to move the motion that, given that between November 1st, 2022 and November 24th, 2023, only 77 of 21,472 applications from permanent residents seeking to join the regular force of the Canadian Armed Forces were accepted, that the committee call on the government to immediately take action to expedite processing times for permanent residents in the recruiting process, including the security screening process, and that this motion be reported to the House.
Thank you. So any debate on this motion brought forward by Madam Kwan? If none, all in favor? Opposed? Mr. Jaberi and Mr. Chang.
I'll go after Mr. Chang, please.
Mr. Chang.
Sorry, point of order. Are we actually in a vote? We've already called a vote, so we're not in debate. So we're just clarifying whether or not the Liberals are voting for or against, right?
Yes.
Point of order, like you didn't call the vote, you were just asking, so.
I said that all in favor. If there is not a unanimous consent, then I will call the vote.
Yeah, that's
right?
what I'm, like, vote has not been called as yet.
Yeah. Mr. Chang.
So could we suspend this motion for now because we don't have enough time to discuss?
You are not in the middle of the vote. I asked for if there is a unanimous consent. If it's not, then they have every right to say. So, Mr. Chang, have the floor. Mr. Chang, we still have a few minutes. You can speak on this motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I would like to add an amendment and pursuant to Standing Order 109, that the government provide a comprehensive response. And pursuant, and that's it.
Mr. Chang?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so Mr. Clerk, are you very clear? Yep. Okay, so now we are on to the motion brought forward by Madam Kwan and amended by Mr. Chang. Any discussions on the motion as amended? No discussion?
So just so that I'm clear, Mr. Chair, the amendment is to ask for a comprehensive response from the government in addition to it being reported to the House, right? So
Correct.
let's vote.
Okay. All in favor, if you want me to unanimously pass, is it unanimous consent in the room?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, it's a unanimous consent? Yeah, okay. So the motion, amendment to the motion is passed. Now we are back to the motion brought forward by Madam Kwan, amended by Mr. Chang. Is there a unanimous consent in the room? Right? Unanimous consent on the Liberal? Yes? Block? Okay, there is a unanimous consent. The motion brought forward by Madam Kwan and amended by Mr. Chang is carried. So now it is 102. Mr. Chang and then Mr. Reddycop. Yeah. Sorry. Okay. Do you want to suspend?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have the floor.
Yeah, you have the floor.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Given the time of 102, I move the motion that we adjourn the meeting.
The motion is non-debatable. Okay, so is there a unanimous consent to adjourn? There's no unanimous consent. I'll ask clerk to take a vote.
Monsieur Iacono?
Yes.
Mr. Chang?
Yes.
Mr. Zubiri?
Yes.
Madame Kayabaga?
Oui.
Ms. Zaid?
Yes.
Mr. Kimmich? Contre. Mr. McGuire?
No.
Mr. McLean?
Opposed.
Mr. Redekop?
No.
Madame Bérubé?
Pour.
Ms. Kwan?
4.
Yeas 7, nays 4.
So the motion is
Carried.
carried. The meeting adjourned.